Everybody, this is Wallace. I am a friendly vampire. Sometimes I can be super scary looking. Sometimes I like to act, and sometimes I move kind of creepily. For the most part, though, I don't do that. Just like random noises. Anyways, y'all, I just want to do a quick video. It is late at night. As you can kind of tell, I am kind of vampiric. If you watch other videos, you would know that there's different stages or transformations depending on how I feel, how much energy I got, and if you watch another video I posted about magic, if the conditions are correct. Conditions could be many different things, including sunlight, including, um, being around people, nature, spiritual things of that nature. So I am smoking nicotine, and I'm just hanging out. Um, I'm really happy that I've got tomorrow off from work. I'm very excited. I've been working quite a bit, it feels like, and I am definitely probably gonna just kind of relax a lot. I'm gonna do music and just try not to think too much, because it does get overwhelming if I think too much. I did want to talk about sunlight, um, and I also want to talk about, well, at least mention, maybe not talk about this video, but when I got turned into a vampire, how it happened, and but not in details, not too many details, of course, but uh, it's something that I definitely have not talked about, um, for many reasons. But I did want to talk about sunlight because I actually thought about that, and that's actually pretty interesting. Um, so after I got turned into a vampire, so I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit. Um, Many years ago, about, I don't know, that memory is fuzzy. That's another thing. I don't know if that's just me or if I block things out or what. But like, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. Maybe longer than that, a little bit longer. But anywho, one of the first things I was told by the vampire who turned me, who of course I won't mention, I won't say anything about that, but um, was like, don't go out in sunlight. I'm like, okay. So one of the first things I noticed, this is interesting, I've purposefully blocked this out from my memories. So just thinking about it has brought back interesting memories. I would sunburn super easy, and I was in Colorado, and the sun is closer to the sun. The sun's more intense, but no, I was like terrified of the sun, like to like a neurotic point where I was just like, I didn't know what all would happen to me. So all I knew is that I was like more sunburny, and plus, the intense sun there where I lived. So I went out of my way to always cover up. I was basically a freak. If you would see me, if I was outside, I was always, always, always completely covered up. And I I lived a life much like I do now, where I'm like, just kind of like go places, and basically at the time I was much, 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 much more socially awkward. And yeah, somehow, perfectly okay. Of course, it's not perfectly okay to be, some guy completely covered up, but I heard people were like, "Oh, he has like a skin problem." I've heard that several times. Like, oh, he's there's just something wrong with that guy. That's why he does that. Of course, like back then, especially, I was so traumatized. It's hard to explain, but basically, I was like, I would never even contemplate mentioning that I was a vampire or anything, and I was like super, super delusional with the fact that I was like pretending that people were not noticing. Um, and it was just terrible. It was a terrible, terrible existence early on, as it was for me. It was just not good, and basically, maybe not longer than like 6 months after I turned into a vampire, I was on my own. I just got off on my own and out there in the world on my own, and I was just kind of figuring out things by myself, and uh, yeah, it was not good. Um, Anyways, so I don't know when, but over a period of time, I basically, just said, screw it. I'm not going to cover up from the sun anymore. I'm just, maybe, I think what it was is I was just getting lazy. And, you get certain times of your life where you're just like, screw it. Whatever happens, happens. Over a period of time, I just stopped wearing, like things to cover up. But, but yeah, what's really interesting and weird is that, as time has passed and I have grown, and, you could say that my abilities and my body, I've learned to be able to not only be out in the sun without getting sunburnt. I can get lightly sun. Like this is really cool. Well, let me finish what I was saying. But like, I'm able to not only be out in the sun, but I'm able to transform in different ways that have different. The sun has different effects on me, which is really cool. One of which is like the sun doesn't. It's like, okay, so one of my favorite abilities is that I could be out in the sun. My skin is glowing. My skin color change. Like you can see right now, like I'm kind of, well, that's not really good. Can't really see. Okay, maybe that's not good. But I have a tan that you can't. The light is bad. You can see. Okay, there you go. You can see I have tan. I'm tan. But the tan goes away completely, and my skin like becomes. It can go all the way to like like a bleached white. It's really cool. And it's like glowing. And like to me, I've developed the ability to basically like what would imagine is like a shield, like a magical shield that like light doesn't penetrate so much. It's like it's absorbed, but there's like a barrier, and it's like absorbed into me. But the damaging part is like blocked, so I can just sit out in the sun in that transformation, that form, and I'm just like absorbing it. And I do that a lot when I'm like meditating. I'm gonna do it tomorrow too when I'm meditating. And it's like I imagine just like I'm just like this being of like light. I'm not a being of light, but I imagine I'm just like a being of light, like sitting, meditating. Like I imagine, but my skin's like totally different, and it's very peaceful. And and in that when I'm like that, I have a very strong vampiric mindset, and it's very nice. I'm able to meditate and think about things if I want to. Usually I don't. I'm just kind of blanking out, sitting there, enjoying the sun, staying calm, not really thinking. But also, if I'm out in the sun, I have the ability to not do that transformation and like become not vulnerable, but like it's like a vampiric transformation that if I want to get a tan, if I want to get slightly like reddish, I can do that, from like sunburn. But with my healing abilities, like it quickly can I can choose. It's kind of hard to explain. Depending on how my what transformations I do that follow me getting like a slight sunburn, I may heal very quickly, or it might last longer. And honestly, I do it. It's partly for cosmetic effects. I think it looks good having like a slight. It's ridiculous, but also, I enjoy it. I don't know. I kind of like the sunburny, tingly feeling, and I think that like my body it's good for my body, like nutrient wise. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yeah. Um, I know I'm weird, but I did that today, and I had a little sunburn. Felt good. Um, but yeah, I've I don't know if it's because I've gotten more powerful as a vampire. Developed my body's developed a some kind of like tolerance or resistance and like the magic, and like I talked about different transformations. Like I don't know, but I've definitely developed that, and it's been incredibly useful. I can be outside all day, and my body is just rapidly healing through the whatever sun damage, and you know it's an incredibly useful ability. Um, because there's a period of time where I'm just like walk, kind of a lower point in my life where I would just walk around and just be outside for like 8 to 10 hours, and like most of that time I'd just be shirtless or whatever, because it's so hot, and yeah. Um, my skin doesn't really wrinkle. I mean, it can, depending on like what transformation. And when I smile and stuff, you can see it, but I'm not really like in any like transformation right now. A little bit, but yeah. I mean, to me, this is like normal stuff, right? But obviously, if you're watching this video, I can only imagine if I was, if I've never seen a vampire before or anything supernatural, that it would be like, what the hell, you know? But yeah. Um, Another thing that I've developed over time, speaking of like growing and like abilities, getting stronger, developing abilities. I've basically become like there's a terminology and a phrase called leadership immune. I've basically developed it's not completely, but pretty much. So like okay, let me finish what I'm saying. Like leadership immunity to pretty much. And what I'm about to explain is something that I've just learned was a thing. Like I never knew this was a thing, and I'm pretty sure that if you're anybody, like this applies to any human person, and obviously we're all human people, but um, if you're a part of a team and there are leaders in the team, there's usually there's a bug. Sorry. Um, but okay, so you're part of a team and there's leaders in a team and you're acting differently and you may or may not realize it. It could be a team of two people, it could be a team of many people. But what happens is that when there's a strong leader, a leader who has both um, knowledge about people and how to, get people to act. But there's also leaders that have very strong, like spiritual energy or like alpha energy, leadership energy. And to me, it's a form of magic, really is. Um, And that could be, it's hard to explain. Basically, let's say you're by a there's a very strong, experienced leader, like someone who's just 20 years of leadership experience. Okay, like someone who is top of their game, know what they're doing. They've got like this leadership magic to them, and they may or may not I was gonna say some other stuff, but I won't say that. I won't complicate it. And let's say you're just some. Let's just say you're me, or just some young guy, or younger version of me. You just walk up, doodle doodle doo, and here's this like super strong leader. And you're like, doodle doo, hey, and you start talking to this person's leaders. You're like, obviously, like, whoa, this person's really, wow, I'm like talking to this person is cool. And next thing you know, you're acting funny. You may or may not realize it. You're like, oh, why did I just drop that thing on the ground? I'm embarrassing myself. Why is my body doing this? It's like you start asking, you're acting funny, you're just like doing things, and you're like, oh man, I really enjoy doing this. Why am I enjoying doing this? Where am I? How many hours have passed? That's the effect of leadership. But there's many, 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 many other things, um, and I've learned about this phenomena, if you will. I think that's the right word. Um, so what I just described, just like dropping things, just like kind of um, being unaware of your surroundings, kind of like like it can get so severe that you're just like, what the heck is going on? Like, did I just like walk into like this like bubble, and I'm suddenly like, when this person who I thought was just really cool, now when I get to them, I feel like all I can think about is like them, and like you're just like a total zombie almost. Like it can get that intense. So like that phenomena, that leadership magic I'm talking about, I developed over a period of time, basically an immunity to it. Um, Maybe not complete immunity, but obviously it's complicated, considering that um, when interacting with a very strong leader, you know, obviously they're extremely aware of, you know, like there's things you can do to try to like not be susceptible to like leadership or whatever, but it's very very obvious depending on what you're trying to do to not effectively you're trying to not listen to this person, or you're effectively trying to keep your own um, what's the word, you're basically trying to be the leader, but the other leader's like, hey, you don't know what you're doing, and then suddenly you're a follower. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that there's many things you can try doing, one of which is like um, changing how you feel emotionally, um, to try to basically resist. But all those tactics, if you will, those strategies to do that, to an experienced leader, they can spot it right away and they know what to do, to basically, you know, they may or may not even talk to you at that point. Like if obviously if you're some guy and you're just like always super super aggressive, and you're doing it for many reasons, but primarily to keep your own um, world intact, if you will. Like you're trying to be like just like the leader of your life, and you're just like, I'm the biggest, baddest dude, and I'm always going to be aggressive, and this has worked in the past, and it works with most people, and I'm just going to be super aggressive all the time, and this is just going to be my strategy, and I'm going to do this. This is going to work because I don't care if I'm not the biggest, baddest. I believe I'm the biggest. Okay, so here's the thing. Like you can try to do that, but those guys in particular are so easy to spot, and they're so depressed, and they're like, like it's not fun being angry all the time, obviously, and it's not effective, and it's not energy efficient, and it's foolish, and there's many reasons why you shouldn't do that. So like instead of resisting like leadership, it's what I've learned, it's best to learn about it and be around people and to actually be nice to your leadership in general, because your leadership generally, if they like you, they're looking out for you, right? Like they're gonna help you, you know, especially if that's how people are. If if you're nice to them, they're nice to you, and you show positive qualities and you learn, and that's how it goes. All right. So, but yeah, like basically that leadership immunity, resistance. Basically, I've become mostly, depending on how tired I am, mostly immune to most like pressuring, like using energy, using I say it's like spiritual pressure, but really it's, to me it's just human pressure. Like humans do that, and it may not be like a thing people talk about, but it's like one of those like very obvious but unspoken things. It's like it or you don't. But the reality is like most people don't want other people to know about it, because if a person is not aware of the phenomena of um, being able to be pressured spiritually or energy wise, um, then but if they don't know that, then that's better for the person who's you know clearly conscientious and skilled in what they're doing. Um, Now, me personally, this is an interesting topic in it of itself, and it brings up a lot of ethical, moral conversations that uh, and it's a whole complicated thing to me. Um, but yeah, what I was trying to say is that just like with sunlight, um, with leadership and with being pressured as well, and like pressure, spiritual energy, I've developed a stronger training and resistance to those things. So yeah, I know that was kind of a lot of talking, but um, so I don't know. I feel pretty blessed and lucky to be able to have learned things and talk to people through being around basically nice people. I know that there's a lot of not nice people who kind of take advantage of things in life that I believe that God and higher power, has granted us um, as human beings. And I do see it from my perspective that for me personally, my opinion, like these things have been around longer than me, obviously, and I feel as though I must honor these things, um, and to use abilities honorably. Um, because I feel like they're like gifts. I feel like God has like granted us these gifts to help make life easier and more effective. And I think to take advantage of them or abuse them is wrong. And for a while there, I couldn't figure out like, well, what am I trying to say? So I'm basically trying to say that there must be a while ago I was like, well, there must be a better way. There must be, like, if these different like things exist that you would consider kind of supernatural, or things that people don't talk about, and if they exist and people are using them, there must be a better way. There must be, um, instead of like you ever see like a salesman, for instance, like selling something, and they're like, being very kind of forceful with it or whatever. Obviously, that looks wrong, and it's like, it seems like a bad thing. And I've seen that, and I'm like, there has to be a better way to being able to sell, or do things like that, and to communicate with people. And there's so many better ways. Um, so yeah, you know, a lot of lessons learned. And if I could pass on one teaching that I've learned, is that what you do today affects you tomorrow. What you do today and what you accomplish today changes who you are when you wake up tomorrow. And if you keep doing good things or bad things, but not like too bad, but like things that, uh, you may not be too proud of, but you got to do, um, it'll affect you tomorrow. It's going to change who you are over time. And it may or may not affect your body. It probably will. Um, and depending on what you achieve or don't achieve, or what happens to you, just because it's life just happens, you're going to be a different person or a different version of yourself in the morning. And over a period of time, like I said, you may make those small changes over time, um, may have a big impact on you and how you think and how your body acts and how your body heals. Um, I know that is definitely true. Um, so yeah, my advice is to think about what you do, and doing good deeds or doing things that, um, may not be considered good deeds. Kind of be aware of it. If you want to, have a, if you want to not so much take control of your life, but have more control over who you are, and over time, who you grow to be. Um, yeah, I think a lot of a lot of these things I talk about how God has blessed us, uh, to be to have this kind of functionality of how we develop and how we communicate. Um, it's an incredibly cool thing once you start to realize what it is, and how life, some pieces of life actually work, as a human being. So yeah, and yeah, it definitely applies to being a vampire, still a human being, and which raises the question to me, like, well, if I'm developing, if doing things affects me as a human being, does doing things affect me in, like, as a vampire, like vampire abilities? I don't really know, but I would assume yes. I mean, yeah, I can sit out in the sunlight, But I don't know. I would say yes. I don't really know. I don't talk to other vampires. Just me. So all right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video there. And yeah, thanks for listening. And thanks for watching. And have a good night.